You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. We already started the conversation off before without even recording in a way. I'm here with Harry. You got to help me with your last name, man. It's German or Swedish or something,
It's
right?
Polish.
Okay.
That's Wroblewski.
Wroblewski. All right. See, I would have thought it was like Wroblewski or something.
I
like
get that a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
So it's Harry Wroblewski.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do like professionally? I guess you would say.
Well, currently I'm working at GameStop. I'm also a professional pirate entertainer, and I have a side business making plushes and stuffed animals and puppets, which goes into my pirate stuff.
Okay. So many outlets here.
It's a lot of
so many bases to hit. Let's start off with the retail store, I guess, the gaming store.
Yeah.
When it comes down to like that's just got to be a passion that you just wanted to. It's like a dream job basically for you because you're influenced by gaming in a hell of a lot of ways.
Oh heck yeah.
Is that so? When it comes to the aspect of gaming, do you like the fantasy kind of things that you can do? Like you can kind of disguise yourself in a way because from you just saying you like to dress up as a pirate. Okay, for a lot of people that don't know out there, you're known as the Berlin Pirate. Now, were you given that nickname, or that was just kind of something you created and it just became a thing?
The Berlin Pirate was actually thrust onto me, more or less. Came back home from Virginia, and I had a pirate costume and a parrot puppet, and I went down to one of the street events in Berlin, Maryland, and everybody loved the whole thing of me going out there in costume, giving out candy to the kids out of a treasure chest. And so after
was it around Halloween time?
It was. I think the first one I went to was the Easter parade, actually.
Okay, so there was an event that was established that you can give candy to little kids.
Yes,
because you can't just be a random Monday walking down the street and handing out candy to kids. Some parents are going to raise a little bit of red flags.
No, it was a street event. Usually with the street events, there are entertainers that are licensed and endorsed through the town. I am one of the entertainers throughout the area that's licensed and endorsed, so I'm not just giving out free candy to your kids on a Saturday out of my van. I don't even have a van, so it's a good place to start with that.
You have a pirate ship.
I mean,
You're
I
a
would
pirate,
like to
you have
one
a
day.
ship, yes.
I would like to one day have a pirate ship.
So when it comes down, you had to get a permit to get all that kind of going in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't see that being legal if you were just like, I'm going to dress up as a pirate and start handing out candy for the kids.
Definitely not a good idea on any other day.
Now, what made you want to even go down that path? Like, even just pursue that? Is it just your obsession with childhood? Like, just people, like little kids? Do you just have a fascination for inspiring little kids, kind of looking like a superhero in a way? Because I've had someone on the podcast before that's a cosplayer.
I do cosplay as well.
Yeah. Well, that's a very fascination if you have a linkage with like a certain icon or someone you admire in a video game or a movie is very common. That's why I just get so fascinated by it because a lot of it stems from being a child. It's more like your childhood imprinted in a way. Like there was a certain type of thing, whether it was a traumatic experience that made you connect to a certain superhero in a way or someone you idolized. More like when you think of your dad, every little boy wants to be just like their dad, wants to be like, thinks their dad's Superman or whatever, something like that. You know, if you're connected in that way. And it looks like a lot of people like that are fascination with superheroes or something at a really, really young age get kind of like, you know, processized onto it is like their addiction to it is because they're looking for a figure that they can look up to, someone that they can admire. A lot of times, like for me, a lot of my influences were like comedians and stand-up specials. Obviously, my dad too, in a way. Yeah. But it's like when I'm watching TV and I see like people cracking jokes and being able to crack a smile and open up a crowd to a new like just a comfortability level that is not ever really there. Like at the start, obviously, everyone's a little bit tensed up. And it's like, seeing that, I admired it so much because a lot of people just see it as, oh, he's just cracking a stupid joke. I don't see it as that. I see it as he's breaking the tension, but he's also doing something he loves in a creative way. So I didn't know if you had a certain influence I guess you would say. I know that's probably a tough question to think back that far.
No, it's actually a pretty easy one to think towards, actually. Well, speaking of my dad, he's actually a Civil War reenactor. So that's...
So the whole kind of reenactment type things in your family a little bit.
Basically. I mean, my mom was... she was trained in the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is the SCA for short. And they do... like the Renaissance fairs, they do sword fighting and whatnot.
Oh, that's dope. LARPing?
Not LARPing.
I want to get into LARPing,
They use live steel.
I don't know where they do What?
Yeah, the Society for Creative Anachronism
stuff.
uses live steel to spar with other people.
You know, blacksmithing is a real job.
Oh God, yeah.
I didn't know that. No, I meant like I knew it was happening, but I knew there's modern day blacksmiths.
It's crazy.
There's a kid I went to college with, and he's a blacksmith, like certified and everything. He like has made swords and shit. I'm like, yo, teach me your wisdom, because I think of that as like you only see blacksmiths in like Game of Thrones or old like Knights of Columbus type movies. Yeah, Skyrim type stuff. Like you don't see it as something as modern day now where we have the Teslas and everything. I've always been fascinated with how we were in history, whether it was from ancient Greece or just old ways of dealing with just the myths and legends of like that we all believed in. I mean, we believe in the most giant myth and legend of all time, which is Christianity, but not to dive into that, but it's like it's to get into something and believe in something and seeing how far someone can take it that really just like shocks me.
Yeah. Well, as far as the as my influences, I really look towards Jim Henson. Puppetry was a big part of my life growing up, and finding an outlet for it was hard for a long while. When I was in Virginia, I really didn't have much of an outlet, so I used to make a lot of stuff, which is where I got into making the stuffed animals and whatnot. Halloween came around while I was out that way, and I was working at the Virginia Living Museum, which is a great place to visit if you haven't been there. It's like a zoo, but they also have like a full indoor museum that has live and stuffed creatures in tanks. If you name it, and it lives in Virginia, it's there. But Halloween was coming up to the museum, and they were like, hey, so the astrology department, which is where I worked at the time, they're doing a pirate theme for the... what the hell is it called? The Planetarium Dome, where they do the star shows and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a pirate theme for the entire planetarium. So why don't you make a pirate costume really quick? I'm like, well, I got a shirt. The Halloween store's open. I can run there and grab a couple of accessories, and I can make a puppet. No big deal. I had the puppet whipped out in a day because people had given me all kinds of extra material to work with. So I had a hand puppet and a costume within the matter of the 2 days up of which they told me. When I came home from Virginia, I had all of this stuff, and I was ready to get back into it because I love making people happy. It's a big part of what I do and why I do things.
It's definitely, it's a good feeling seeing that if you can make somebody smile. I mean, I've been told many times, like, the conversations I've had with people are just so random, and I've said something that someone's like, why would you say that? And then, like, not even later that night or something, they'll be driving home and they'll think about what I said and laugh. And it's like, I'm glad I could bring that smile to your day. You know what I mean? It's not hard to just, make someone smile in a way or say something that might be ridiculous, might even put you on the spot and make you look like a fool. But, like, it's a saying, like, dance like nobody's watching. Like, you got to learn to kind of be yourself, and also, like, if you're able to help somebody, and even if it's just something to say, just like a, hey, hello, how you doing, that type of thing, it's really beneficial in everybody's mood,
It's assuring.
It's something everyone should aspire to do, and I don't believe a lot of people do it. Now, when it comes to puppets, okay, this is something that I see as, like, when I think of puppets, I either think of Jeff Dunham, like the famous guy Duncan Trussell, or the Psycho Killers or something like that you see in like horror movies. Those are the only times I ever really see puppets, is when I see them in like a comedic performance or something like that, or you think of like some type of movie that might involve like puppets or something using like that type of action. How did that even get started for you? Where did your interest for puppets even stem from, like as a kid? how did you even find out about that world? Like, we all know arts and crafts. We all know drawing and making our cards for our family and stuff like that. Like, happy birthday, you know, that type of stuff. And then scribbling all over it, and they're like, oh, I'll put it up on the fridge. And next thing you know, it's not on the fridge anymore because it literally looked like trash. They threw it away. They're like, that's terrible. Yeah. You know, but when it comes to making puppets, like you're designing your own, that's got to be a long and tedious process too.
It is,
but you enjoy it.
Oh yeah, no.
So it's not even it's not even something like you feel like you have to do. You just love doing it.
I'm actually wrapping up on my second fully hand-built puppet right now. If you count the bird that I made for the original pirate costume, I've made 3 puppets in total, one of which has been replaced with a new version, which is Patches, my parrot. I got into puppets when I was a little kid. It was for Christmas or for a holiday of some sort. And my grandmother got me a hand puppet from a really good company, Folkman's Hand Puppets. If you ever want to get a hand puppet, it's the best place to go for them. From there, I've had hand puppets, marionettes, and my grandmother would get me ventriloquist dummies, which are, you know, the ones that look like they're from the movies that they want to... Like, have you seen Dead Silence?
Yeah. Dead Silence. They're ventriloquist dummies. It's like the easiest jumping off point. They look absolutely ridiculous in the movies, but they're not scary. They're not going to kill you. They can't get up and walk around in the middle of the night. Where you understand, like, just where I'm a little bit freaked out with the whole puppet thing, right? Like,
I do.
So, my first thought and question is, how was that going through your childhood like that? You definitely had to get made fun of for stuff like that. If I got made fun of for, you know, like being a little bit overweight or something, then how the hell did you get through with the whole puppet notion? People probably looking at you like you were a psychopath. Jeff Dunham talks about that. When he was growing up, he didn't have a whole lot of friends. Everyone looked at him goofy, and then he did something in high school in a live performance, and everyone started laughing.
I didn't really have a lot of friends in high school either. I had a couple of very close ones. But when it came to that part of me, I kind of kept it behind closed doors for a while. It's not, kind of like you said about Jeff Dunham, it's not really something that you can bring out and show your friends at school. With a lot of the dummies, you actually have to have a proper case to carry them around, otherwise they will get broken by somebody that doesn't like it. Bullies. I had a lot of those in high school.
It's also not like a talent like most kids that have a talent in high school, like doing a backflip. Like, it's not something easy like that. This is something where if you start pulling out puppets and you're not like making everybody laugh, then you're looked at as a psychopath, and that's going to label you for the rest of your life.
Exactly. The worst part about it is I didn't really master ventriloquism until the last couple of years. So I would have made an embarrassment of myself back in the day.
You got to be shitty to get better. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Everyone has a start somewhere. Like, nobody that's the master at anything was a master right at the start. They were always a beginner.
Exactly.
That was a motivational poster actually in my 6th grade class. I remember that. So I always used to throw eraser caps at it. For some reason. It was right next to the trash can. It would go right in the trash can.
Perfect. Yeah. Kobe.
LeBron. No, but you know, like I said, the podcast goes on some pretty weird tangents.
Oh yeah, no, this is totally cool.
It's just like when it comes down to like building puppets and going that far in a thing, I get freaking upset when I'm like have to spend like I guess 5 minutes making a card in a way. I'm like, I'd rather just go buy it. I mean, yeah, there are some days I'm like, I want to make the process, I want to draw, I want to sit down and do all this, but then I'm like, after a minute I'm like, all right, what the hell was I thinking? It's not fun at all. I prefer something, I mean, not that I'm not creative in the mind aspect of that, but I feel like my creativity goes somewhere else.
You have other creative outlets into your life, and that's a good thing to have.
And when you're this young and you're dealing with like wanting this passion kind of to make people laugh, and you want to do it through an outlet of like dressing up or, you know, creating puppets or doing something like that, and there's not a whole lot of influences really out there at your time. I'm not saying you're an old dinosaur, but you're what, in your 30s?
I turned 30 just this last August.
Yeah, like there wasn't a whole lot of influences unless you're watching. Like Jeff Dunham, I think probably hit a spark of popularity when I was around 13 years old.
Yeah, same.
Because I'm 21 now, so like about 10 years ago was like when Jeff Dunham was all over TV doing his comedy specials, Sparks of Insanity. I remember Ahmed blew up, like literally blew up. Yeah. And it was like, it was crazy because like there wasn't that on TV before, and then everyone became so open to it, which probably gave you like a green light in a way, like, oh shit, this is the time to get started and start moving out, branching out into the thing, even though you probably had already been doing it, but you're like, this is definitely the key time to jump on this.
It didn't really click like that for me. The way that I saw it was the fact that I had the costume and I had the puppet was the perfect way to get out there and do it. Living in Virginia, I didn't really have the materials or the puppets to do much of anything. I was living with an ex of mine. Really nice person. Wouldn't want to do it again. I mean, living out of state away from family and things. It's a little difficult. But I didn't really see Jeff Dunham as a jumping point. I saw him as a reason to be accepted. People saw Jeff Dunham for as he was. He is a talented person, and he deserves the respect and the notoriety that he gets. I saw him as a way for myself to become accepted in a way when I got back into it. Because people always say, hey, your puppet looks like something from Jeff Dunham. And in the back of my head, I'm like, Jim Henson will be rolling over in his grave.
Yeah.
Because I based my stuff off of his books from back in the day. Jim Henson is truly the person that I would consider my inspiration for doing any of this. And while I won't discredit Jeff Dunham's work, because he's done a lot of good stuff for the community, including charitable events, lots of live venues, which I have bad enough issues with crowds of small children.
In your eyes, he wasn't the origin.
He wasn't the origin.
He wasn't the guy that was... It was the same thing with Duncan Trussell. A lot of people don't know he used to do a puppet. I don't know if you know who Duncan Trussell is.
Duncan Trussell. Can't say I do.
He's like a acid DMT trip, like that type of inner... There's another being, but he's all in like virtual reality. Like you would like him for sure. I'll let you know that.
Definitely.
But he had a puppet, and he used it in his comedy bits, and then someone stole the puppet, and then he stopped doing the puppet thing. It's like, what, he became so popular with the puppet, and someone takes the puppet and thinks that's what, that's what's going to make them famous. It's all in the puppet. It's like, no, it's in the person's act. That's just a form of their way of speaking, which is actually a great analysis on your identification through your puppets.
Exactly.
It's your voice through your puppets. The same reason I use my voice through my podcasting or something like that. It's like the way a writer uses a book. You're using just something else too. You're using another outlet for your words. You're using a something that either you made or you bought. But I mean, in my eyes, I just look at it like you're sticking your hand up a stuffed animal. But in a way, that's what it is. But at the same time, it's like, I would never, I might crack a joke on it, but I would never criticize it because that's your hobby. That's what you enjoy. Yeah. It's not something that's normalized in today's society, but a lot of things that we look at in society are not normalized in a way. Dressing up as a pirate, if it's not Halloween or something like that, someone's looking at you like, that's your day job? Really? That's your day job?
I get that.
Yeah, it's like, what? Sorry, I don't want to work in an office. Sorry, I don't want to hate myself, work a 9-to-5 job, and then go home and do the same thing every single day over and over again until I die. Yeah. That's not my passion. I enjoy putting on a costume and having a kid come up to me and, look at me like I'm some type of, actual, person that I'm representing. Same thing with cosplay. When those guys or girls dress up as their favorite superhero, favorite, supervillain, whoever they want to dress up as, it's that time for them where they can truly feel comfortable, much like when you go into your room. That's the only place you really feel comfortable in your life. Anywhere. You can walk around the house. It doesn't matter unless you own the house and there's no one that lives with you. You only truly feel comfortable when your door is shut and it's locked. That's when you can truly be as naked as free as the world. You know what I mean?
That is a very good point to make, yeah.
And when you go to when they go to cosplay and they have these events that happen, all these people have that feeling that we get when we're in our room naked. It's like they're able to free themselves. They're able to take off whatever the pain, any of that emotion that they feel throughout their life, and be able to dress up as something that they admire or they want to be, or just something that just is so cool to them that they want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the one dude that made the $10,000 Predator costume. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see
with
that.
the working sound effects and like the whole like actual motorcycle helmet. They sell a motorcycle helmet that looks like the Predator thing. He went full out with like, you know, he was talking about his costume, spent all this money, and then how many hours it took to make it. It's like he had that passion, and it's only for one day of the thing he's using it for. And it's like, but he wants to do it because that's what he can do, and he has a right to do that. And no one judges it, because when you look at a cosplay event, you're looking at like, oh, that's all of them getting together for one day and doing that. But like when you're going, and if you're not a street performer, if you're not doing something that's going to make them money, like with, in my mind, is like a hat on the boardwalk, a hat in front of you where someone's throwing in money like bands do and stuff like that. Society looks at it like you're a weirdo. Society looks at it like, why is this person dressing like Santa Claus? Like, it's not Santa Claus time. You know what I mean? It's not even close to Christmas. It's like, well, maybe that's their form of like a hobby, I guess, that, you know, it sparks them to create a smile on somebody's face. If that's how they can get their smile that they need, then let them do it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, I'm in public and I'm going around. I've seen the guys with the T-Rex. You know that thing that happened on the boardwalk with the T-Rex puppet?
Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah, that's a friend of mine.
Did he really do those things with those kids? He was like accused of child?
No.
Okay.
Somebody posted a video on Facebook ages ago about that, and it's a load of malarkey. Trying to watch my words a little bit for the podcast.
You can cuss. I don't care.
Well, fuck then.
Oh, shit.
There are 3 puppeteers in the area, and I'm one of them. It's myself, Jim Stark, who has the marionettes, and another one out in Berlin who's a ventriloquist whose name suddenly eludes my mind. But no, Jim's a good Christian man. His mother actually just passed away this winter. I saw him last Saturday. He's a wonderful man. He has an amazing story behind him, and he's just looked at as strange because of his hobby, his profession. He's also a yard worker. He does landscaping for the area. But he's a great guy. I don't know why people put the spin on him like that he could do that to kids. I know.
It's because they can. I mean, what's the first thing that pops into my mind when I see an older man messing with a puppet and he's entertaining kids is like, I don't see it as, you know, I see it as like, that's their creative passion, obviously, but it's like, is that guy a child molester? Like, you know, because that's what gets played on the news, and that's what's played in society's views, that if someone that's playing with a puppet, if they're not super famous playing on TV, you know, that's the first thing that everyone's mind goes to is like, oh, child molestation. There's something going on there. They have a certain something wrong with their wiring, and that's not 100% true, because some of the people that you think are the craziest and most mentally insane wouldn't take a dime from you if you offered them $100 and they had nothing. They're the people that are out there willing to put in the work and not take any handouts in a way.
Exactly.
And I mean, in that field performer view, you are taking out handouts, but you're earning that. You're earning that. You're making people laugh, and you're not saying, hey, you have to pay me. You're saying, if you feel like doing it, do it. It's the same thing performers do. Like when you see those bands that are just starting out there, they're out there to play music. They're out there to, spark anybody's just interest that enjoys that type. You know, you don't have to stop and pay. You can just walk right by if you don't enjoy it. It's not. It just means that wasn't meant for you. And I would never let my kid go sit on Santa Claus's lap, just because I don't even believe in that notion of, you know, I understand. I'm not gonna sit out in front and be like, no, you can't have kids sit on your lap. If that's what the little kids wanna, if that's what the parents want their little kids to take a picture with Santa Claus, go ahead. But I'll be more than happy, unless I know the guy. It's just like, I don't know, because when it comes to having kids and knowing how sensitive people get when they do have kids, like how protective, it's like, it's the same thing with a mother bear protecting her cubs. Like, you don't want anything. Well, it's also selfish in a way to have kids, because when you have kids, you're basically making a little you. Like,
basically,
it's like I like myself so much, I want another little piece of me.
Exactly. I mean, it's two halves. You gotta have two people to tango. But realistically, Have you ever seen the Entitled Parents Reddit?
No.
The Entitled Parents Reddit is someplace that I think you'd love to sit for like maybe 10, 20 minutes.
I can't get on Reddit because I read too much stuff on there that ends up turning into conspiracies, so I just undownloaded the app and was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
The Entitled Parents Reddit is a place where people post stories about parents that have gone way overboard with how they take care of their kids in like a public scene. So there's stories about parents approaching somebody who's reading their tablet or watching YouTube videos on their tablet, and the parent comes over and is like, my son's been really great in school. I want you to give your tablet to my child.
There was actually a news thing that came out, I think it was like a year or two ago. This family taught their kids that are like at the age of 10, like ever since they were little, that the park is this certain amount of distance from our house. You can walk from the park to the house by yourself at the age of 10.
Yeah.
It's not a problem because you know how to get home. You know where we live. You know the route there. You know the route back. You know not to go off the thing, and they trust them to do that. Well, someone saw this and asked the little kids what they were doing, and little kids like, we're walking home, and they're like, where's your parents? Be like, they're at the house. They're like, do they know you're out here? Be like, yeah, we walk to the park every day after school and we play. Mm-hmm. The person called the cops, did a bunch of stuff, tried to get the childhood protection agency, all those people involved to take away the children, saying that the children were in danger of something ridiculous. There's a person that didn't understand it, and the parents are like, we trust our kids enough. They've been there many times, you know. They've been there since they were 3 years old. You know, we've walked with them, we showed them the route, we did all this, and we trust them enough to go down the street to, like, it wasn't a 20-minute walk. It was like a good 5 minutes away from the house, like any little kid would. But that's how society looks at it now.
Yeah.
Where like back in the day, you don't see kids scootering anymore. You don't see kids skateboarding anymore. I went down into Bishopville. There was only one place that had that. It was a small community. Every house looked the same. They had a freaking pool with a water slide. They had like a water park inside there. They had a ping pong tables out in the open. They had freaking bonfire pits out in the open. It's this community by Harris Teeter. Yeah. And it's like, holy crap, like, I got lost back there because all the houses looked the same and all the streets looked the same. I was skateboarding one night at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get home until 4 in the morning. And I just skated down to Harris Teeter. It said it was 5 minutes away. We took that as a shortcut. Me and my buddy got lost in there for hours, couldn't find our way out. It was the first time we ever went back there. You take a drive back there, you will get lost, man. Everything is like, holy, like, it's right where the concerts they play out there. Yeah. By Harris Teeter. It's that area. All the houses look the same, but I saw kids scootering on the street. I saw kids skateboarding. Little kids, like 7, 8 years old, like stuff I used to do when I was a kid.
This is the 90s all over again.
Exactly. It was like the 90s. And I saw, it was a pregnant woman walking with her husband and pushing a baby stroller, and they were waving, and like neighbors were waving to each other. Obviously, this wasn't at 1 in the morning when this happened, but I went back and saw all this, and I was like, everyone's, hey, how do you doing? How you know your neighbor? The kids are scootering and going down the street. The kids know to get out of the way when the cars. The kids had knee pads and elbow pads and a helmet on. I was like, I remember doing that for a little bit until I got older, and I was like, it looks ridiculous, but yeah, it was just insane. It was like I was getting hit with the most giant sense of nostalgia. I was like, holy crap, there's all these, and all these kids are like, you want to go to the pool? Yeah, I just got to go to my house. Freaking the kids live like not even down the block from each other. He's like, I'll meet you over here in 5 minutes. Me and my buddy are biking to Harris Teeter on our way back probably 10 minutes later. The kid's running out of his house wearing swimming trunks, and his buddy's waiting out in the street like, let's go. And they're just run down to the pool that's like 2 blocks down. I was like, I understand it's all so close together, but you do not see that anymore. No. We live in Ocean Pines. The pool's 3 minutes away. It's like, parents still have to drive their kids there. I remember, it was just like that amount of like freedom you get when you're able, like your parents are like, you can skate on this street alone, Yeah. Just when they finally let you leave the house and do that, it was like amazing to me. But going back and seeing this like 90s retro style community where I was like, everyone knows their neighbors. There's people like neighbors that are, I guess, learning to be friends or something, playing ping pong. Yeah. In the middle of the day. Just out in the open playing ping pong. And there's a soccer court all this stuff. I'm like, what is going on? Like,
seriously,
I don't see that anymore. And it's hard to do sometimes with the weather like this, but it's like, it's ridiculous to see how far society we've gone in good ways of progress, but to see how far we've taken things. Yeah. Whether we're getting so super sensitive, where like everyone's just looking to get offended about something. When did that even spark start happening? And can we even turn the wheels back?
Well, it started, in my opinion, it started with the rise of the internet. As soon as we had it on our phones, we had more reasons to be opinionated about everything.
We had more shit to look up.
Exactly. It has been said that in the future, people will talk about, if we from the future went back to the past with our phone, the hardest thing for us to explain to anybody is the fact that we have an amazing device that can connect to a multitude of information. And all we do is look at, opinionated people's opinions and cats. That's all a cell phone is for us anymore. We have all these opinions within our fingers.
Don't forget the porn.
I mean, a lot of people do that. But the point of the thing is, we have all of this information at our fingertips. We don't use it.
Quick tangent.
Here we go.
This is gonna be good. Imagine if you can go back every 10 years,
mm-hmm.
every 10 years till the 1900s with a brand new cell phone, and ask 5 people on the street what was the one thing they would do with this phone. What answers do you think you would get? What would you get in 2000?
God, in 2000...
2010, because we're almost in 2020.
Yeah. In 2010, we had just basic cell phones. Real talk, 2010, they'd be asking to look at porn.
Porn. That's my answer, too.
Definitely.
Okay, 2000.
2000, they'd probably want to take a look at the music on it because Walkmans were, still in, and they were trying to move forward into the new generation.
I'd look at the news.
Yeah. News would be a good thing.
News for 5 minutes and then back to porn.
Considering what happened in 1999, all the crazy stuff from that year, they'd probably want to look and see what kind of stuff comes up in the near future if the information is still up to date.
Now, 1990, what do you think people are looking up?
1990?
That's when computers, you had one in your house finally, but it was an old box crap one.
1990.
The family had to share it.
1990, as soon as they hear that you can make your phone into a hotspot, they want to connect to the internet on their computer with it.
So what would they be looking up, though?
Would they be looking up?
On
1990. God, I was 2 years old.
I was born in the last ending of 90, so I'm just going to go with whatever I knew about 1990.
1990, I would probably say that they would be trying to watch TV shows. That's one of the things that I remember from my childhood is when I was a little kid, we would record everything on VHS cassettes. So, do you remember Snick from back in the day, Saturday Night Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
We have, or had somewhere, VHSs of the entire night's lineup of Snick. Because if I wasn't home or if I wasn't awake for part of it, we could literally just pop the VHS in and rewatch what I missed.
Since this podcast is audio, I'm just going to give everyone a good image of who you really are. My interpretation, obviously. Think of the guy wearing the Supernatural t-shirt like he is now. Gamer, headset type deal. Drinks Mountain Dew or Monster. And basically, you would see him every night playing video games like I did at a young point, doing stuff like that, and into comic books and, watching, cartoons and all that stuff. That's your influence in a way.
Basically.
That gives everyone a good image of you.
It's a good viewpoint.
It is depends on how you look at it. There's going to be some people out there that guy sounds terrible. It's when I walk into Walmart and I see a dude buying a 48 can thing of Mountain Dew and buying a bunch of Doritos and stuff, that man, obviously wearing the Minecraft t-shirt or something like that, is about to go on a gaming rampage. And to him, that's his day off. Let him do what the fuck he wants.
Pretty much.
That's enjoyable sometimes. I get into the habits of playing video games too. If I get a good game, mostly something that has to do with history, I feel like Assassin's Creed, those types, I like that that fantasy aspect of it. But like Destroy All Humans was good too. Like dealing with that, and Ape Escape, the simple games. Like I like doing stuff where I can either do a tycoon type thing where I can build, fascinated with building stuff, and at the same time being able to go back and learn, like, I wouldn't say actual history, but learn about actual figures in history.
So like Sid Meier's Civilization would be a good game for you.
Yeah, well, like if you play Odyssey or something like that, you're learning about Socrates and all this stuff of, ancient Greece and all our influences from Greece. I mean, Greece gave us mathematics, gave us literature, gave us art, gave us everything, basically. Everything we've stemmed from comes from different philosophers, from Socrates doing playwrights. That's where the first puppets were even invented, were in ancient Greece back in the day. They used very, very basic forms of wood. And then if you want to go into a whole different style of where puppets were even created, China.
Yeah,
they use stick figures. They use the little figurines, the little wood figurines that the family members that were in the war carved and would give to their kids, and the kids would have toys a little bit to play with and stuff. Little twigs. Have you ever seen Tropic Thunder? Where they talk about Twig Man?
Yeah,
little Twigman. Yeah, that's a real thing. The warriors, all these people would give their kids gifts, and even going back to Egypt, dealing with all these like clay dolls and stuff. It seems like everyone's been, whether we know it or not, whether we use it in society or not, we have been obsessed with making dolls and making action figures. What was every little kid in the 90s toy, or any kid really growing up? You had a Barbie doll, you had a G.I. Joe, you had a doll. You played with it at a point, but it became a notion that once you grew up, like once you hit the age of 10 or something, those are toys for that age group. It doesn't go on any farther. And you've taken that farther. You've decided, no, there's not an age restriction on it. Dude, I still play Yu-Gi-Oh!, those types of card games and stuff. It's like, it depends on what that person, what's their sense of fun.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's a great way to look at it now that I kind of took that analyzation with puppets. The new Barbie doll that's coming out is in a wheelchair, and they're starting to add, with Barbies, they're starting to add prosthetic limbs. I know it's already a fake doll, but it's like, but they're adding like stuff like a shortened arm, a stub of an arm, a stub of a leg for people that don't have, so it's not a perfect image type thing.
They're normalizing adults, people with disabilities.
Society's starting to, we were becoming super sensitive in a way that was ridiculous, and now it seems like we're becoming sensitive in a way that where it actually means something. Having a Barbie in a wheelchair is inspirational for a kid that can't walk or can't use their legs.
Definitely.
There's so many things that, we take advantage of in society where it comes to technology. But when we stop and we look at the simple things we can do to improve life in our own communities, whether it's making a doll that is in a wheelchair, or, being able to work on the next device that can go into someone's ear and help them hear for the first time, like the Sense goggles that came out, the color goggles, that someone that's colorblind can put these goggles on and it helps their vision see color for the first time. There's guys that are 40 years old, 60 years old that are finally seeing colors for the first time, not knowing what they were.
And the videos about them, just watching what happens for
they
their
make you
eyes,
tear
amazing.
up, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're watching that, it's like, my first question is, how the fuck that tie matches that shirt? Because I watched a video with a boss who's wearing a purple tie and a black shirt and black pants. I was like, how the hell that matches so damn well?
There was a video I had watched back in the day where a man was talking about how he dresses himself being colorblind, and in one case it was how he dresses himself being blind in general. He had, in both cases, they had somebody come over, and in one case it was his wife, the one who was colorblind, and in the other case it was a friend of his, where he was just straight up blind. What they did was they put a button onto the shirt. In one case, with the colorblind guy, he had a button sewn on the inside of the bottom of his shirt. With the other gentleman who was just straight up blind, he had all the buttons replaced, and they were all a certain shape or size to show what color the shirt was or what style the shirt was. So you could actually match it to a pair of pants and shoes, because everything was labeled appropriately by the person who could see or see color, which is really cool to think about.
Well, you got to think, where we go and we kind of adapt to helping out people that do have these disabilities, which is it's very, very common. It feels like it's more and more aware every single day, which seems like there's a new something getting kind of help to fix or help these people kind of function through everyday life.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, I remember there was a kid in our class that had a wheelchair, and I didn't understand the full things of it. I didn't know if he was just lazy or something like that. Like, it was hard to understand, especially, I mean, I was like 6 or 7. I wasn't like 20 years old in class, like, why the hell are you in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
Now, but there's people that take advantage of that whole thing. Like, if you go to Walmart or you go to some store and they're just too big to walk, and they're just like being very lazy and taking a ride on the thing. It's like, now, how bad do you feel if a kid in a wheelchair comes up and needs to use that thing, and then you're in the cart fooling around with your friends or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I feel bad when I use the handicap stall when I go to the bathroom, but sometimes I need that comfortability. I like to stretch my legs out. When I take a dump or something, I like to feel comfortable. If I see a person come by and like in a wheelchair, you see that the wheel's under the stall or something, I would immediately get up and be like, I'm sorry, do something like that. But it's crazy to think that like something like that is like completely like out of the world of like of being a dick. And then when I see someone using a scooter that just wants to be lazy or something, I see that as being a dick. I'm like, what's stopping someone thinking that me using the handicap stall, even though I'm not handicapped, is like taking advantage of something?
It's like somebody using the handicap spot outside of Walmart, and you can tell that they're not handicapped. They don't have a handicap.
Yeah, they're 20 years old and they run into their car.
Exactly.
It's like, do you want me to make you handicapped? I can earn you that sticker for real.
Do you want to limp? We can make you limp.
I got yelled at because I parked in a handicap spot once, and it wasn't handicapped though. If you go to one of the Walmart down here, they took out the handicap spot and made it normal parking, but they still have the blue lines that are like really faded on the ground.
Yeah.
But there's no handicap sign, so normal people park there too. So I pulled in there, and someone was like, "That's a handicap spot." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not. I don't think
no
so."
Signage.
Like, I'm the last person to do that. If anything, if I get pissed off enough, I'll just park all the way at the way back of the parking lot and walk all the way to the store. I don't care if I got to break my arms bringing in the groceries. Like,
then you'll have a handicap spot next time.
if you had one sense you had to lose, what would it be?
If I had to lose one sense, oh shit.
Sight, taste, touch, hearing. Because it makes me
really hard decision.
I'm gonna say this while you're thinking on it. It makes me think of like when we talk about how the hell we know what colorblind people, what color like matches and stuff. How the hell did Stevie Wonder? Who dressed Stevie Wonder? Because that man could not see, and he didn't dress bad at all.
He mostly wore black.
It's the same question. You got to think: how do blind people know when to stop wiping their ass? And you get so many different answers. So many people are like, "I just keep wiping until I feel it's enough." And then it's like, okay, but then there's some people like, I have to sniff the toilet paper. Be like, damn, that's gotta suck.
Yeah.
But it's like these things that we don't even realize about people that like the amount of extra effort they have to go through the day just to be able to function when we take so much shit for granted. Like, you got where they literally say you have 2 working arms, 2 working legs, and stuff like that. Like, if you're downstairs, you ask someone to get something for you. Your legs aren't broken, are they? No. All right, then get it yourself. It's like, for real. It's like, yeah, there's going to be times you're going to want to sit down and let someone get something for you, especially if they're in the kitchen. But it's like, I realize that there are people out there that don't have any arms or legs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Untold Stories of something. It's like a cowboy type thing on Netflix.
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
It's the Tales of Buster Scruggs.
I've heard of it.
Okay, it's a bunch of little skits in one. So it's like multiple different stories. There's a dude that is this is back in like Western times, where they had the little box you had to move, and they had like something playing in it, like a bunch of puppets, like a puppeteer type show.
Yeah.
And or something where they would earn money and people would tip in a hat. A dude would walk around. Well, they had a dude in there that was tied to like a chair as like a back brace type thing. Had no legs, no arms, but had a memorized story in his head, like a giant play written in his head. So he would just sit there on the stage and just renounce the play, like in old Shakespearean type words.
Yeah.
People would tip him. Well, imagine what that guy has to go through, because Liam Neeson's in the movie, and he's the one that takes care of that kid. And like throughout the whole thing, Liam Neeson is carrying the kid everywhere, setting up everything, getting the money, like doing this, feeding the kid, you know, showering him, bathing him, helping him pee, doing all this stuff. It's like nobody understands what that guy's got to live through, the depression that guy's got to live through. And I don't want to spoil it, but they're all different tales, so they only last like 20 minutes. But it's like the ending of the movie. The dude's not making that much money anymore, and he sees there's another guy down the street with a stall, and has a chicken that can guess numbers. It's like a certain smell they put on these things, and the chicken guesses the number. And like all these people are betting on it, and the dude's winning massive money. Well, Liam Neeson buys that guy's cart, buys that guy's chicken, and then goes over to a bridge, looks over, throws a rock over the bridge, sees how deep it goes. Then he grabs the dude, and next thing you know, it's just Liam Neeson and the chicken. So he threw the dude over the bridge and killed him.
And took the chicken for his own profit.
Yeah, because the dude wasn't making him any money doing the play rehearsals anymore, so he was like, might as well just do it, you know, get rid of that, not have to pay anybody, not have to worry about anybody, and deal with the chicken.
Definitely works.
I mean, it definitely works, but it's like, you gotta understand, they're looked at like it's trash. I don't want to die. I know we were talking about puppets, and now we're diving into like, you know, disabilities and handicapness, but it's like, we take advantage of that. Like a lot of people like don't even understand what they were, you know, born with and what works on them. Like obviously there's many different handicaps, from mental handicaps to physical handicaps to emotional handicaps to, you know, it depends on how serious you want to go. We look at physical handicaps more of a serious factor. But when it comes down, what I really want to wrap this around to is the stigma of it.
Definitely.
How society's stigma. You look at a guy with his feet or legs blown off or something like that, you think immediately of war. Dude, I've met someone that was in the war, and he had no hand. He had a fake hand, and he didn't get it from the war. He got it from working on a lawnmower.
Oh, that's horrible.
Like, for real.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap, like I thought your hand got blown off. My best friend growing up, his dad had a completely burned back. And I thought his dad was in the war. And his dad, like, I thought that's how he got it, was from that. I didn't find out until, like, 10 years later. I mean, I was hanging out with this kid since I was, like, 4.
Yeah.
I didn't hang out, like, till I was 15 or something. He got it from a cooking accident when he was a little kid. He was playing with a stove or something, and he had boiling water or something, and it burned off and burned his whole back of his skin. I was like, damn, I thought you got that from the war. He goes, no, I got it from cooking. And I'm like, what? Like, we look at these things and we immediately associate that happening with this, happening with that, so we're afraid to ask the questions. It's the same thing when you're talking to someone that's, you know, transgender or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not bad to ask. Sometimes you need to ask, like, hey, how did this happen? If it comes up, don't randomly just be like, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? You know, be considerate about it, but understand that they're going through stuff too, and they've learned to deal with it and cope with it in a way.
Yeah. Now, the problem with doing that, even asking a transgender person their gender, their preferred pronouns in some cases, some people will look at you like you've offended them because they find these kinds of things to be offensive.
I actually, a couple days ago, interviewed a person that is going through transgenderness. She listens to my podcast. Mm-hmm. Whatever, you know, she wants to be called. I don't mean to misappropriate her name if she listens to this or he listens to this.
So they are gender fluid.
She worked at the casino. He worked at the casino. Dakota.
Yeah, I know Dakota.
Okay, so he wants to be a guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, guy. He's a guy.
Well, he's male.
He's a male, yes. He's been taking male testosterone and stuff. I admire him so greatly for that. I really, really do. And it's definitely going to take me a little bit of time to adjust to being able to call the proper pronoun, obviously. But he's very considerate about it. Very considerate. I asked him, I was like, would you just prefer that I talk to you? Like, how would you like me to call you? What would you like? I was acting like, what do you want to be called in a way? And I felt weird asking that, but I was so polite about it. I tried to. And it was like, I want to understand. It's not that I find that ridiculous at all. I do find it when you flip your gender 5 times in the middle of a minute conversation. That's ridiculous. You can get the fuck out of here with that. But if you really feel like deep down inside you were born in the wrong skin, that's 100% fine.
Oh, yeah.
There's some people that, I don't believe the notion, but feel like they're black in a way. Like, okay, well, you know, your skin color's not black, but if you feel black, go dress black. You know, Malibu's Most Wanted if you want. I don't give a shit. But it's like, if you're not an asshole and you're not doing anything like that, then go ahead. You're able to be as free as you want. Now, when we look at the stigmas of how society looks at things and associates it with things, like I'm saying, I want to bring it to the puppet thing again.
Yeah.
I bring the stigma to rapists and pedophiles when it's nothing like that. And a lot of people that listen to this, like you had a fucking insane person from Monsters Incorporated on your podcast who was talking about puppets and shit like that you grow out of when you're 10 years old. I'm like, what's to say? Why does he have to grow out of it when he's 10? Why can't he keep that for the rest of his life? Why can't he just have that passion? Why can't he be an old man with his grandkids sitting down and, you know, doing that? It's the same thing when we get addicted to our cell phones.
Yeah.
Some people look at cell phones like that's a 5-year-old's fucking toy. Like, yeah, it has the power of the internet and it has so many things, but in our mind, we don't, like in America, we don't wrap our head around it being a childhood thing. You can be 40 years old. John Cena played 5 hours of Candy Crush on a flight. 5 hours of fucking Candy Crush.
That's
John
intense.
Cena.
That is intense.
Okay. So it's like, for real, like, we're adults and we get addicted to childhood shit. But we look at it like it's on our phone. It's a small, quick game. I could turn it off whenever. It's not carrying a giant suitcase with a puppet in it. It's like, but maybe that's his app. That's his cell phone.
Yeah.
That's his way of describing himself. That's his way of having fun or doing something, entertaining himself or entertaining others that brings a certain passion to people, which I'm just fascinated about.
When I put myself into what I do, it's the same as if you're an artist. It's the same as picking up a brush and putting it to paper. It's the same as picking up a pen and putting it to a tablet to write a story. What I'm doing when I am being a pirate, even, what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to people and showing them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be who you are on the inside. It's okay to be something completely different on the outside, because at the end of the day, we are all who we are and we all love each other the same.
We're all equal. I mean,
We're
that's
all
a major
humans.
thing. And when we say that, we think of our brain immediately links to like skin color and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, there are people out there that have a certain hobby or certain thing that we find weird, but that's the way society has programmed our brains to think in a way. Now, there are those people that are freaks, and next thing you know, the neighborhood cats go fucking missing.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, there's something wrong with that. You can't be killing kids, but it's like, at the same time, if there are people out there that like to enjoy playing with puppets, like the craft. I talked to a spiritualistic woman. Her name's Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about how she would go onto the beach and meditate and light candles and do seances and use wands and stuff like that. And people look at her like a weirdo. I look at that like, I mean, that's what she's into and that's what she's interested in. She takes a religious aspect with it, but that's her passion. That's her way to calm down and meditate in a way. She lights candles and stuff for her family on an altar and does seances. She's a Wiccan, and she does that type of stuff. And it's like, what's different from looking at that and then think of what we do in other cultures, like with Native Americans and Latinos, where they're doing Cinco de Mayo, Day of the Dead, and they're lighting candles for their family and dressing up like spirits and stuff, like doing parades and stuff. But we look at that as like, that's their tradition. Okay, what's stopping from someone having their own tradition, where their own tradition is like, oh, we're gonna have steak every Friday night, Taco Tuesdays. That's a good tradition, but it's like, at the same time, you got to look at like, what's stopping that person's hobby from making puppets and doing this a certain day of the week, or doing this for a certain whatever they want to do it, making that their tradition, making that their own little cultural thing.
Well, one of the other things you got to remember is that with puppetry, it was a lot bigger back before television and the internet came around. Everybody had something similar to it. They would entertain the kids. They would do stuff at church. They would do Punch and Judy on the streets, because that's something that people would do to make money on the side. Punch and Judy was basically, I see you look at me like that. Punch and Judy was, they put up this big wooden box theater. And Punch and Judy were just little hand puppets that they put over top of the thing, and they'd have them interact with each other in weird ways to make the kids laugh and the parents laugh on some occasions. Punch was the male, and he had like this club or something, and Judy was the female, and the whole thing was that Punch was an abusive husband, and that made everybody happy for some reason. Not the point. But that's something that people would do back in the day to tell a story, to make kids and adults both laugh at the expense of these puppets. It was really weird times.
You know what's weird? Is that I feel like it's the same thing I kind of came to in the conclusion of the one podcast I did with Dakota, where he was telling me if people just did their research, you understand it better. If you understand anything that like you find weird or something that looks like a freak type thing, like you just explaining puppets to me, like is helping me understand a lot more. Like not look at it like in a pedophile type way anymore.
Yeah,
more like looking at it like there's some cool shit behind it.
It's so normalized.
If there's anything in puppetry, the world of puppetry from the start to where it is now, is there anything that like fascinates you or is like something that sticks out, like a moment in time? Like a lot of people like use like if someone's gonna ask me like what's a memorable UFC fight, if I was into UFC or something, I would be able to be like, oh, this moment in this, do you have anything like that for puppets?
One of the most jaw-dropping moments in the world of puppetry that I've ever seen. And it's something that people are still trying to work out on paper to this day. Granted, it's probably somewhere in the archives. In the Muppet movie, from way back in the day, there's a scene in the Muppet movie where the Muppets are riding on bicycles. And, they do close-up shots of the Muppets sitting on the seats, and you're like, okay, that's easy. They got the bike going by, and they're on a dolly sitting next to it, manipulating the puppets as they go by. And the camera backs out, and you can see full body the Muppets on their bicycles with like real full-size human beings riding next to them. And it's this moment of, how the fuck did they do that? Because you just see a big line of Muppets going through Central Park in New York City.
On bikes?
On bikes.
Oh, you know how they did that, right?
Yeah, they welded together the bikes with rods. For the most part.
Yeah, so you couldn't see them, and then they just, whenever they would move, it would look like they're pedaling and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, no, but I just think that's the most jaw-dropping moment in the world of puppetry, in my opinion. Just seeing that effect for the first time blew my mind. As far as other forms of puppetry, Howdy Doody Show was a really big one for a lot of people. If you're familiar with Howdy Doody?
Yeah.
I met Buffalo Bob when I was a kid, actually. Which
Holy
was really
shit.
neat. Yeah, he came to Ocean City for a publicity event with the Smithsonian Museum's Howdy Doody.
What happened with Buffalo Bob? He was a killer, wasn't he?
No, that you're thinking of
Buffalo Bill.
You're thinking of Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bob was a.
Who was the guy on Joe Dirt that they were making fun of, the psycho killer?
That was Buffalo Bill they were talking about.
What the hell did he do?
I don't even know.
He puts the lotion in the skin.
Oh yeah, that's from. Shit, what movie is that?
Is that based on a true story, though?
I don't think so.
Alright, go back to your puppet thing.
Anyway,
Shit, I'm sorry.
You're good. Buffalo Bob was the host and the main personality on the show Howdy Doody, which was really big back in, I think, the 60s. Because they had it in black and white, and then it transitioned over to color for a little while. They had a thing on Happy Days, too, which was the thing.
My favorite theme song.
Heck yeah.
Sure kick your butt at a game of ping pong.
I mean...
Quiz at a trivia quiz you bring on.
Okay.
White and Nerdy?
Oh!
Weird Al?
God. I haven't heard that song in a long time. I feel like an idiot.
It's one of the lyrics from it.
Howdy Doody was a puppetry show where they had marionettes. And it was a vast cast of different marionettes working with full-sized actors. So you think for a second, you've got like a 6-foot-tall guy, and then you've got this town on a table at about like waist to mid-abdomen height, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got these puppets about yay big standing on this platform, maybe about like 2.5 feet tall, that are being operated from like 5 feet above the table in the first place.
Okay.
And they're all interacting and telling stories to the kids in a Wild West theme, which was really great for kids growing up because Westerns were all the thing. And then Buck Rogers came around and destroyed the market for it.
Did you see the new puppet movie that came out after the... not the Muppets. It's not anything like that. It's not...
Happy Time Murders.
That was a good-ass movie, dude.
Hell yeah.
That made me like puppets a hell of a lot more.
I watched that... I saw it on the theater with a friend of mine. God, I think it was like on the release week.
It was like what puppets do if they weren't being filmed for a kids' TV show.
Yeah.
Like, You know, one was a cop, and then like there was a puppet porn store, and like there's all that stuff, and they're doing like drugs, and the drug is pure sugar or something like that. Like, that's crazy. That's just, it was such a good representation, and like it definitely probably opened people to look at puppets a lot better too.
Definitely.
See, if there's movies like that where they play it in a good way and stop showing it so bad, I mean, the stereotypical puppet movie is like either like if it's not a kids type thing like Sesame Street or doing something like that, it's, you know, it's freaking bringing it to, like, that dude's a serial killer, uses a puppet in the murder or something like that, you know what I mean?
Well, you know the Muppets weren't originally supposed to be a kid's show, right? The demo reel for the Muppet Show was called Sex, Drugs, and Violence.
What?
Yeah, not even kidding. Matter of fact, most of the...
You're telling me Snuffleupagus?
No, I'm not talking about the Sesame Street, because that was designed by Jim Henson for kids.
Wait,
I'm talking
Sesame
the Muppets.
Street was...
Sesame Street was its own thing.
Was Snuffleupagus?
Yeah.
I thought that was Muppets.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Muppets. I'm pretty positive.
It's not.
Damn it.
Snuffleupagus...
Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Snuffleupagus is the fucking animal. That's what I'm thinking of.
You're thinking
Animal.
Animal was on the Muppets. He was the drummer for the Electric Mayhem.
Yes, that's my favorite. Animal!
He is He is the best. But the original plot, the original show reel that they demoed was called Sex, Drugs, and Violence. Pretty much 90% of the jokes that they do on the original Muppet Show, it's all adult humor. It's just so lowbrow that the kids are like, ha ha ha, they're saying funny words.
That was wasn't the original thing for Bert and Ernie supposed to be a porn?
No.
I heard something about that. That Bert and Ernie was actually meant to be a gay porn, because they're two guys that live together, and all their jokes actually were still written. Like, if there's certain context or certain lines that they say where it's like, "How'd you sleep, Bert? I would if you wouldn't stop poking me during the night." Like something like that. Like, there's a bunch of those hidden references in there. It's much like when you watch Jimmy Neutron or SpongeBob now, and you see all the hidden jokes that were in there, and we wondered why our parents or something would watch it with us. It's because in Jimmy Neutron, there's a scene where the dad goes, "One time I sat on a banana and it changed my life."
Yes.
And you're like, as a little kid, you
that.
didn't get that. And then when you get older, you're like, oh shit, you know, you understand the hidden reference. There's a bunch of those in those old type cartoons, a bunch of the 90s, that was filled with them, a bunch of shows. And you look at, you know, the puppets and stuff, like all those shows, they were designed to be like porn. I mean, the only scary puppet show I could ever possibly think of was Mr. Meaty. That freaked the hell out of me. You've never seen Mr. Meaty?
Mr. Meaty.
On Nickelodeon.
Is that the one with the latex puppets that had the bug eyes?
That were on a meat show, or they were on, they were
worked
a mall.
at like a McDonald's kind of place?
It was a meat place. Mr. Meaty was a meat place
I
inside a mall with a bunch of puppets, and the one dude starts frying his hand and eating it.
Yep.
That gave me fucking nightmares.
Yeah, no,
there was an
horrible.
Episode with a tapeworm that educated you, but I did not eat for 2 weeks after that. Now, granted, I'm 10 years old watching this, and the guy goes to eat something, and a giant worm comes out of his body and then bites the food for him, and then it goes back into his mouth. He's like, you know, the craziest things about that show, like the dude's frying up fried chicken, and then next thing you know, he goes to pull the thing out of the fryer and spills some grease on his hand, and it turns into like a chicken wing type thing. Like, it's fried, like fried chicken. And he starts biting it. It's delicious. And then he sticks his whole arm in there and starts going. It's like, holy crap. That show messed up so many kids.
Oh, I
remember. My buddy
remember.
still mentions that. He's like, dude, I couldn't eat for 2 weeks after that tapeworm. I'm like, same here.
Ren and Stimpy.
Those
Speaking
weren't
of
puppets,
shows,
though, right?
no, I mean, speaking of shows that mess you up, Ren and Stimpy's a big one. Because Ren and Stimpy was way off the ball with everything. They had a lot of crude humor, gore in some cases, intense violence. It was really crazy compared to nowadays cartoons.
It got you addicted to that TV watching it.
Yeah.
You didn't want to take your eyes off the screen.
Oh no, I loved Ren and Stimpy.
I was faking being sick to stay home and play video games and do that.
Yeah, we all did that at least once.
Because there was a certain hour that it was on. Like, it was on in the middle of the day when you're at school. It's like, this is the prime time for little kids to be watching this.
Exactly.
But it was like, no, it's not meant for you. It's meant for parents. Remember, we all used to stay up and get like up at 1 o'clock in the morning. We had school the next day to watch Invader Zim. Or
oh, God.
My favorite show, Invader Zim.
I loved Invader Zim.
And then, like, watch Adult Swim in general. Like, when that came on, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching this. I'm not going to school tomorrow. I'm going to fake being sick so I can just stay up all night and watch this.
No, Invader Zim was a great show for a lot of people, and it still has critical acclaim, so to speak, because there's a lot of fans out there for it. The artist is actually still making comic books.
He was supposed to do a remake of the show, I thought. It was supposed to come out.
He did a movie, from what I understand. I don't know if it came out yet or not.
I think it's either in the works still, but I was excited for that because Gurr was my all-time favorite.
I mean, he does seem like he's right up your alley.
Yeah, but those shows were so insane and random, and it kept me influenced in a way. Like, kept me kind of where my kind of... It gave me that laugh I liked that I didn't see on a lot of things. And there are obviously other shows like Scooby-Doo that I love, and
oh yeah,
you know, stuff that influenced me in that way. Mostly cartoons and stuff too. But when you look at like shows that taught messages in hidden meanings, Johnny Bravo, Courage the Cowardly Dog, these shows that you didn't understand sometimes at a young age, and you look back on now, it's like it's better than the dog shit they play now. But
True.
It's like I say that, and I'm being a total hypocrite. Because those kids that are watching that now, that's all they know.
Yeah.
And that's their Johnny Bravo. That's their thing. I just look at it like, it's not in my realm. The same thing my grandfather looks at me and he sees me on my phone. He's got the old flip phone, doesn't ever use it, never answers phone calls, never does any of that. Mm-hmm. But then my grandmom is completely up with technology. She's got an iPad. She's on, you know, she knows a hell of a lot more than I do on it. I'm like, what the hell? But that's her. She's all new and hip, and he's all like westerns, you know.
Yeah.
It's so easy to shop for him. I go and spend $1 at a Dollar Tree and get 10 cowboy movies, and he's set for the rest of his days. Like, he's just sitting there chilling, watching cowboy movies all day.
Oh, yeah.
It's like some people don't want to go and, you know, normalize into what we view as, like, being advanced in society. I definitely don't. I believe we're going a little too far in ways. I do believe... we're all making a comeback in a way too.
Yeah.
Because our phones went from being super small to super big to going back to super small to now being able to be super big again. We went to the giant ass phones and we dropped down to freaking the small little phones, like the little touch, not touchscreen, but flip phones. And then now we're building back up to the giant iPhones that don't fit in your freaking pocket anymore.
Like mine.
Yeah, your iPhone is literally, I think probably 70% case in a way.
Yeah, it is right now.
But it's like, it's all because we spend more time on it.
Yeah.
The amount of time that influence is back on. And also clothes are starting to come back. You're starting to see like people throwing back 90s clothing. People, you know, it's...
Jinko jeans.
All these styles, music styles are starting to get revamped again. It feels like, and you know, superhero movies, they're making a giant outbreak right now. I mean,
this is the time for it.
This is the time for it, yeah. But back 20 years ago or not 20 years ago, but when Spider-Man first came out, you know, that was the time for it. All those super movies, Batman, Dark Knight, all those that were coming out, that was the time for it. Everyone wanted to be Batman or Spider-Man or something like that. You know, I remember dressing up as a little kid as it was all over Six Flags when he went. Mm-hmm. And, you know, okay, so this brings a really good question through this tangent we just went on. Do you enjoy the animations of, like, Bugs Bunny and those types of cartoons?
Retro classic cartoons, I'm all for.
Marvin the Martian.
Marvin the Martian was my man.
Yeah,
I love Marvin the Martian. That's our roots. We can't look at that and not feel nostalgia. Even looking back as far as Steamboat Willie, back as the earliest Disney cartoons. Simpsons. Going back to
I was a little bit
earliest.
too young for Simpsons, but I caught a couple episodes, and then I saw the Simpsons movie, and that really influenced me too. Because a lot of what plays and what really attracts somebody to watching something is how up to date with society it is. Family Guy 10 years from now is not going to be registered to kids now. They're not going to know who the fuck Ben Stiller is or any of those types of people that aren't either performing or doing something like that. But when you go to like Star Wars, where they revamped that, and it was for the new... I haven't seen any of the new Star Wars. Yeah. Mostly because I don't feel like it's set for me. Even though I might like it, I've watched probably 10 minutes of it, I just couldn't get into it. I prefer the older versions. Because I remember being a little kid, and the very first Star Wars I watched were the remakes. The ones with, you know, with the color and everything like that. And then, like, the original Liam Neeson. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember I own one of those, but I watched that, and I was like, this is not the originals I know. The originals I know were the remakes, the ones where you see what happened with Darth Vader and all that stuff. Like, that was my, you know, Star Wars in a way. And it's like, we talk about passions and people having different ones. It's like your puppets are your Star Wars in a way. Like you have your different creative aspects. I have my different creative aspects. And it's like, we look at what really plays in society. It's 10 years from now. What's playing now is not going to be relevant to the kids 10 years from now. I'm afraid to see what we're going to be in 10 years from now. It's hard to think, like, what else are they going to invent? And then the next day, bam, something else got invented. You're like, what the fuck? What were we ever doing without this? It's like with our cell phones. I don't remember. I mean, I was born, obviously, and I was around when we didn't have cell phones, but I don't remember not having this bad boy in my pocket where I can look at it every single morning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hell, I'm even looking at it now. It's like, it made the watch useless. And then next thing you know, watches are coming back because now you can hook it with your phone. So it's like you don't even really need you only need your phone to carry on you, but you can leave it in your car and you go inside to a store to go pay for something, get your watch on you, someone calls you can answer through your fucking watch.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's some Back to the Future type shit, but where are the shoes that tie themselves?
They made them. They were on a limited run.
Yeah, and they had what's his name? God, what's the actor's name that plays Marty McFly?
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. They had him try them on and test them out. It was made by Nike, the auto laces.
Yeah.
What about me? I'm 21 years old. I don't know how to tie my shoes properly. I would like some laces for my fucking shoes. Yeah, Crocs. I don't want to wear Crocs. I don't want to wear flip-flops. I don't want to wear fucking Uggs. I want to wear Vans, and that's how I want to be.
Velcro.
I literally tie my Vans, and I just push the laces in, and then I leave them in like that, and I just slip them on wherever I can.
I mean, I go for Velcro shoes because they're inexpensive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not paying $80. Exactly. Most of my shoes are on clearance. I don't spend over like $10 for clothing.
No,
there's other shit I would like to save my money for or buy.
If I'm gonna spend over $10 on a pair of shoes, it's gonna be a nice pair of dress shoes for me going out in the town. Realistically,
Daddy's getting himself a nice pair of juice.
You're damn right he is.
But it's crazy, dude. I look at all this stuff and I'm like, if, they made that the Muppets were so kind of before time type deal. Like, it's really hard for kids to look at that now. And yeah, they can kind of make newer episodes and make it like that, like how SpongeBob kind of did. But it's like, it's not the same than when they played that Puppet Murder movie. There are people, I'm not saying that's going to be something for kids to, obviously kids are going to watch it.
Yeah.
Illegally or whatever the hell they want to do to get it because they're not old enough to actually go buy the ticket. But it's like, that's going to attract a whole new group of people, too. 30-year-old guys that are like, think puppets are ridiculous are going to see that. Like, it's funny as shit. Like, now I don't look at puppets like a psychopath type thing anymore.
From what I heard, that movie bombed in the box office, too.
And, so many good movies bombed. Green Lantern bombed. I love that fucking movie. I don't believe Ryan Reynolds was meant to be Green Lantern, but I don't believe that movie was as bad as everyone says it is.
Everybody was saying that if they had cast an African-American man in the role of
That's the original Green Lantern. It's black.
If they had cast an African-American man in the role of the Green Lantern in that movie, it would have bowled over in box offices.
Green Lantern's black in my mind. I'm sorry.
Exactly. That's the way he is in
the original is black. That's how he is, yeah. I'm going to crack one.
Knock your socks off.
It's so early in the morning drinking a beer. Nah.
Cracking open a cold one with the boys.
Now, do you change your puppet's voice when you do?
Oh, God, yeah.
What's your impersonation for your puppet's voice?
Well, I'm a ventriloquist, so it's going to look really funny because I'm not going to be moving my mouth very much. But with Patches, he's a red parrot. So I'm talking to him. Realistically, it's kind of like about here. This is basically what he sounds like.
So it's kind of nerdy in a way?
Kind of nerdy.
Sounds nerdy.
It
doesn't sound like Salamar or anything off Aladdin, the red parrot.
Yeah. Oh God, what's his name? What's the bird's name on that movie?
It's played by
Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried.
I wish I could do Gilbert Gottfried's voice, because that'd be great.
You gotta act like you're biting a lemon.
Yeah, I don't bite a lot of lemons.
And the lemon sour.
And the lemon sour. Oh God. Yeah, let's not pretend I did not do that.
I only have like one or two good impressions, and mine's Christopher Walken.
Good Christopher Walken. I'm ready for this.
You really want to hear it?
Yeah, hit me.
Your father walked 3 years with his watch up his ass. Didn't have too many words to say. I always go to Pulp Fiction.
That's
or not
really
Pulp Fiction,
good.
whatever that one movie is.
No, it wasn't.
That was Pulp Fiction.
It was, yeah, it was.
Oh fuck. Pulp Fiction.
I do a pretty good Peter Griffin occasionally.
Do it.
I just did it. It's not that great.
It's not that great.
Thank
That's a good one. I like that.
you. I'll be here all day. No, I'm kidding. I won't. No,
Because I'm fascinated with impersonations. A lot of people look at that like, you're a weirdo doing other people's voices. Like, it's actually a talent because the ability to move your voice like that. It's the same thing with musicians. There's a thing. I look at creativity in all aspects, whether it's writing a child's book, whether it's writing a music, whether it's just, if I don't like it, I'm not saying I don't like it. I still appreciate it. You know, I watched an orchestra video, and I'm watching the orchestra video and watching these guys perform. And I'm like, before when I was a kid, I would look at that like, I'm not going to a fucking orchestra. Yeah. I'm not going to go to an opera singing thing. I'd love to go now just to experience it. I want to get the experiences, as much like with my podcast. I want to hear everybody's voice. Yeah. I swear to God, the next person that I asked the podcast with asked me, what's it about? Or, you know, I understand the answer to it, but like, they're like, I'm not that interesting. You are. You are. Everyone is interesting. Everyone. And I just turned that around to make it sound like I was about to snap. But like, no, like, it's so true. It's like you have a story, whether you believe it's good or not. I want to hear it. You've experienced things. You can't tell me you've gotten to the age you are at now and haven't experienced shit.
Everyone's got a voice. You just have to express it.
You have to and I want to hear it too. Yeah. And like, it's the same thing. On one of my podcasts, I had a radio person on here. My family's all into music and radio. That's how they can express themselves through music or doing stuff like that. I express myself through my voice, through my actions, through, wear your heart on your sleeve, that type of deal. It's like you express yourself with your puppets, you express yourself with this. If I want to do a fucking impersonation that expresses myself or expresses somebody else, it's not putting on a disguise, it's not putting on a mask, it's being comfortable and being free and just... The ability it took for me to work myself up to even do an impersonation was like big for me because I was always deadly afraid of speaking in public. Yeah. Like if I wasn't in the back of class cracking a comedy joke, if you put me in front of someone's eyes, I immediately tense up. I can't do it. But then it all just changed. Like when I took this speech class, and Dakota was in my speech class, and she was like, "Yeah, all your speeches were improv. They were amazing." I was like. They all were improv off the top of my head. Because I work better off the cuff than planning it out. I'm that guy that, you don't want to push into a corner, but when I do get pushed in a corner, my mind runs. And I have ADHD, so it's like, bam, I'm always constantly going. But it's like, dude, it's crazy to understand that, like, how it's taken me this long to find, like, a good meaning in life, I would say. Yeah. And I'm so happy at least I found it now, rather than... at the age of 80 where someone doesn't pursue their passion and just is now like it's too late for them to do it. Yeah. But it's not really ever too late. No. It's just like it sucks that there's all that time now that you think in your head it's just wasted because you could have been pursuing that. And I gave my buddy probably the one best advice. My one podcast I did with Brian, we talked about how it was the podcast like a fortune cookie. We always get down to the mystery in the thing. Whether you feel like it was a form of therapy, whether I feel like it was a form of therapy, or whether we're just shooting the shit. It's like, we always get down to the mystery down inside the podcast. Whether there's some weird tangent that someone's going to hear, like, that's fucking, why the hell did they go off so much on that? Right. But it's like, at the same time, it's something where everything you go after, everything you pursue in life, every step you take should be in pursuit of that. It shouldn't be in pursuit of anything else. It should be focused on that goal in general. If you want to be an astronaut, go be a fucking astronaut. There was someone I know, she wanted to be a professional women's champion arm wrestler, and she became that. An arm wrestler, you don't even think of that. You're like, what the hell? Like, there's people that are out there that are developed into the world of science, that go into want to do space travel and stuff like that. I'm like, you can do it. They're like, oh, I'm not smart enough for it. You need to learn. You need to take the effort and time in to do that. Some people are gifted smart. Stephen Hawking's. We talk about disabilities. We're talking about being the smartest person basically on our planet and being trapped in a body where you can't express your full capabilities.
Rest in peace, my man, Stephen.
That's a damn freaking backhand from whoever. But, like, the amount... Like, apparently he was a super freak, too.
He was also an atheist, which is interesting to think about.
I mean, I doubt...
I mean...
When you're thinking about space that much, I mean, hell, I watched Interstellar and I got fucked up for 2 weeks.
Yeah, pretty much.
You start thinking about all this stuff. And knowing that on Ant-Man, the sub-reality and the subatomic realm, that's all real.
Oh, yeah, no,
There's a podcast with a scientist that I still have to watch. I've mentioned it before, but still have to watch with Joe Rogan, and he's having this sub-neuroscientist, whatever the hell his name is, talking about it. After 5 minutes, I had to shut it off. Like, I can't work out and listen to this. This is something I need to sit down and watch.
Definitely.
I binged on Cosmos, and I watched all that stuff. And I have to rewatch it because I don't understand a word they said. It's the same thing during this podcast. Someone's gonna ask me afterwards, what did you guys talk about? All I know is we talked about puppets. The tangent that we went on, fuck if I know.
Ta-da!
But it's like, that's the point. Like,
it's the magic of it.
It's a recording, because sometimes you say those things like, damn, I didn't have that recorded. But it's like, sometimes it's like, it's good conversation. It's good banter. I definitely gave you, hopefully, something good out of your, time doing the podcast and doing stuff like that. And it's like, there was that time where you're like, shit, I had fun. Like, as long as you had fun, that's what matters.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I can say that I had fun. And truth be told, I'm actually really interested in hearing back and hearing what all I had to say, because I'll be honest with you, I don't remember a minute.
It was cool. I mean, we went on different tangents and stuff. And
yeah.
Hopefully have you on again soon. I definitely want to catch up with you when you've did a little bit more with your puppeteering and stuff. And
definitely. Well, right now I'm doing, I actually have pirate gigs at the hotel we worked at, the Dunes Manor, every week. And sometime in the near future, I'm going to be picking back up on my weekly events. So
get the business booming again. Are you going to start? What's your overall passion in all this? Just to do that? You want to be famous with doing puppets? Would you be happy with that, or what's your ultimate goal in life? Like, we all have something we're kind of chasing down, whether it's going to school for a better job, or what's your inner passion?
My inner passion is making people happy.
I know, but like, what job did you want to do with that?
I've thought in length about taking it to the big TV, getting on public television, pitching a show idea to PBS, MPT, something like that would be amazing for me. My dream growing up was taking myself to the Henson Company out in Manhattan and applying for a job there. And I know it would be great for me, but I don't know if I have what it takes to be cut out to work there.
Why do you think that?
Looking at the other puppeteers and puppet makers that work for them, I see that I'm lacking in skill. I made up a lot of it recently with moving forward. Making a second version of my bird puppet Patches and the new project I'm working on, which I sent you a picture of that, the mermaid. Working on the both of them has brought my skills up to a point where I'm comfortable making bigger and more impressive projects. But I don't feel like I'm professional enough to work among the greats that have built and operated things along the likes of Jim Henson.
Now, would you want to own your own? Like, would you want to work behind the scenes with building puppets, like just being the designer for them rather than being the performer, or would you still like to perform?
It's kind of like what Jim Henson did, is what I would like to do.
Because Jeff Dunham makes his own puppets.
Yeah, Jeff makes them.
But like, a lot of people don't know who Jim Henson is. So yeah.
Oh God, that's right. He's not culturally out there right now. I forgot about that.
So when you say like
yeah.
like Jim Henson, a lot of people are like, well, who the fuck's Jim Henson?
Right. Well, Jim Henson is the guy that made and operated Kermit the Frog, which is kind of the voice I'm doing right now. It's pretty horrible, though, isn't it?
I'm Kermit the Frog.
I'm Kermit the Frog. Yay! Anyway. Jim Henson is the guy that made and operated Kermit the Frog up until his death. Jim Henson was an amazing man with an amazing family and an amazing idea to make people happy. And that's kind of my biggest inspiration through this whole thing. Granted, his company is still going strong without him, but he was a master in his own right, even if he moved his mouth. I mean, have you ever seen him doing a live thing on stage? he sits there with Kermit the Frog, and you see Jeff Dunham doing the same thing, and he's got himself and his puppet as two different people, and he's not making a single movement on his face. Jim Henson, he just sits up there flapping his gums as Kermit the Frog, talking in syncopation for both of them. Neat.
When I ask you about either if you want to work in the kind of the wings of the create the costumes and do all that stuff, what I want to know is Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
He creates his own puppets and doesn't like people touching them or using them. He prefers that strictly that those are his because he likes to perform and he likes to get all the credit for that.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Jim Henson, he was creating puppets and doing all this stuff and having multiple actors use different ones and creating his own movies and TV shows and episodes and stuff like that. And he also used the live performances, but he aspired to bigger things too. I'm asking for you, because a lot of the animatronics and stuff like that were kind of taking over the puppet where the puppets used to be in general. It's probably a big thing when you see a Jurassic Park movie, that's CGI. It's not the giant machines that you see in the old original Jurassic Parks that were so inspiring, but the animatronics you see on amusement rides or something like that. That was a major thing. Before that was puppets. Yeah. People were using puppets and there were people in costumes. You see that in Chinese culture where they're the dragons on the street and the people are under the dragons controlling it and moving it. That's still culturally popular. Puppets are in China and stuff of the what would you call it? Asian heritage?
Asian heritage is what I would go for.
So it's and that's used in Latino heritage too, with, skeletons and representing figures and monsters. And that whole movie that came out, Cosmos, wasn't that puppets? Or was that cartoon?
Wait, which one are you talking about?
Not Cosmos. I just said the space show. The one, the skeleton, the Day of the Dead was... Coco. That was a puppet thing, right?
That's all CGI.
That sucks, because that back in the day, that would have been puppets.
That would have been, real talk, that definitely would have been right alongside of Never Before Christmas if it was done stop animation. Definitely.
That was a thing on TV back in the day. There were puppet shows.
Exactly.
It's all CGI and getting wrapped into society standards of that now.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore. There's no more really puppet shows out there. There's nothing influencing these kids to understand what puppetry is.
Yeah.
So they're seeing the old, blast from the Stone Age type shit, and they're not understanding that if it was revamped and made new, bam, you would get interested in it again. If they did it right, obviously. To some of us, it's going to be right. To some of them, it's going to be you're throwing back an oldie and you ruined it.
The new 5-year-olds are looking at the TV when you show them something from our glory days, like an old episode of Sesame Street.
And if someone isn't getting blown up in 2 seconds, then they're not attracted to it.
Exactly. They're looking at it what the hell is this shit? Where's the good graphics? Where's the, flashy animations? And we're looking at them I grew up with this.
So when I'm talking about...
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. It's the whole point of the podcast, tangents.
Yeah.
But it's when we're talking about what you want to end up doing, would you want to be able to have your own business where you can form your own TV kind of network centered around just puppets and all these aspiring actors? You obviously don't go and see another puppet actor and think, try and diss them and discredit them so they can get less credit than you, so you're the more popular one. You don't do that. You probably try and influence them in a way or try and help them out and I'll tweet for you. I'll do something try and do that for them because you're trying to get it out there too as well. It doesn't benefit you to push them down.
Ideally, if I were to bridge out and make a network where I could work with people for the puppets, I would be making my own, like you said with Jeff Dunham. I would be making my own. I would be using my own. But if anyone wanted to come on and use a puppet, I'd be more than happy to help them to make their own.
But you would never sell one of your puppets?
Not one of the ones that I work with. If someone, I do commissions occasionally.
If you were paid for to create one, then you would create one for somebody. But if you created one and used it yourself, you get a bonded connection with that certain puppet. You wouldn't want to sell it.
You get an attachment.
Yeah.
If someone
it's physically, literally attached.
It literally is an attachment. Patches, my bird puppet, he is literally the entire elbow to fingertip of my left hand. There's no way I could give that to somebody. There's no way I could sell that. I could not put a price on
bonded
that.
with him.
Exactly.
Your hand has gone up his pooper.
He's an extension of my personality. The minute I put him on, he himself is a separate thing. And that's one of the things that if I ever do, like, I've been thinking about doing a web series on how to get, well, I mean, that could happen.
Porno with puppets. That's
That'd be
out
really
there.
weird. That's way out there. That's gotta be
man.
somebody's thing.
It's out there. There's someone out there fucking doing that one.
If I was thinking about doing a video series on how to do ventriloquism or puppetry. One of the things that I would like to touch on with that at some point would be a topic that I've been thinking about called thinking for two. So basically, to summarize it really quick, since, you know...
Of puppets?
No, thinking for two. Basically, when you have a puppet on your arm, that puppet should be a separate thinking individual that doesn't rely on you for cues. So when you start talking to it, its responses to you, despite the fact that they're coming from your own head, they can make you surprised. You're not thinking, you're reacting with your hand, basically.
That, in my mind, I envision schizophrenia. I'm very obsessed with psychology, and that's like a multiple personality type disorder. But what's stopping that from being a mental disorder, or is it just someone that's really talented?
I see it as talent.
It's all how we look at shit.
Yeah, I don't see myself as being a broken or psychologically distressed individual. The things that I work with my puppets with are very healthy, in my opinion. When I have Patches out, because I do take him to the events on occasion, when we interact with the kids, it's a genuine... It's nothing scripted. So everything comes off the top of our
improv.
head.
That's why I find it fascinating, because I'm very obsessed with improv.
Yeah.
So mostly because everything I'm saying, like this whole podcast, like
this is all improv.
Do you see any paper in front of me that is, that was for you to write down. I wanted you to write down your thoughts during the podcast, and you completely missed it. I spent 20 minutes looking for a pen for you to write down, and you didn't write anything down.
Fuck! Next.
But it's like, it's cool because, I eventually...
I forgot about it.
Because you were getting so into a conversation, man.
Yes.
But it's like, eventually, like 100 episodes in, I want to start adding things, like taking Polaroid photos. I want to get a Polaroid camera so I can post them up around. And I also want people to bring in souvenirs so they can set it up in the podcast room so I can always have a little bit of piece of you. And I'll eventually have everybody back on again. But, like, when you're talking about having this, deciding whether it's really a mental disorder or if it's just someone that's talented when it comes to puppets.
Yeah.
And someone's eyes are going to see it as a mental disorder. For someone that studies psychology, it feels like the same thing when you study something or you get hooked on something and you basically think about it or you act like that for the next 2 weeks after you've seen it. Same thing with like a very, very good movie or something that sparks a type of... like sparks a spark in you, I guess you would say, a fire. Yeah. It opens up, like Interstellar, like that messed up my mind about space. I was obsessed with it, still kind of obsessed with it, but it left a lingering effect, you know what I mean? It's the same thing with puppets. You're leaving a lingering effect on people, whether it's, with emotion and comedy, like you're making them laugh in a way. Yeah. And, you just gotta understand, like, there are going to be people that are going to look at it differently, but I believe if you can educate more people onto the fact of that, I mean, like I said before, we all have G.I. Joes, we all had Barbies, we all had Legos, we all had something that was a form of childhood, memento, India, every culture has had something that has had from the materials or whatever resources they had available. And Africa, they probably have something that is with sticks or mud or something, a bunch of stuff stuck together to go do that. It's not in a way like when you're talking about like you do it in a healthy way. It's healthy to interact this way. It's like having an imaginary friend. Sometimes your mind is so creative that you need to express it in a way. Whether having a doll and being able to play with it or doing something like that. Now, in my mind, you don't want to be 40-something years old and building puppets and then not having some type of thing where you're going out and actually bringing joy to people. You're just like, I build puppets, and that's what I do. Like,
Yeah.
do you sell them? Do you use them? No, I just build them. And then you walk into their house, and there's nothing but puppets staring at you across the wall, like multiple Chuckies and shit. That always freaked me out, Chucky.
Chucky, yeah.
But it's like, when you get to that aspect of it, then yeah, there might be a problem with this guy. That's when
Yeah.
you can kind of figure out, like, there might be something mentally wrong with this man.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're doing it, like you said, in a healthy way, going out and expressing it and actually doing something with it, taking the steps to do something with it, then that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But, you look at, like, what do we classify? We always are so quick to judge if someone has a mental problem, so quick to give somebody a pill, like...
Exactly.
They try and diagnose bipolar and all this stuff in teens and all this stuff. What's that? You're doing it too early.
Yeah.
They're not developed yet. Their hormones are still raging. They're going to be pissed off one minute and horny the next.
Pretty much.
You can't say that they're bipolar because of that. The kid's 14 years old, not understanding his body and growing hair everywhere. Like,
everybody's bipolar, if you really think about it, because everybody has that innate ability to change mood from one minute to the next.
it's whether you do it all the time or you cram it down deep and then one day shoot up a grocery store.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
There are
Holy
literally
shit.
two types of people in the world. That's how they analyze it in psychology.
Yeah.
There's the one dude that pushes it all deep down inside. Next thing you know, he gets pissed off enough to actually do something about it. Or there's the person that snaps a lot. Like,
Yeah.
multiple times throughout the day, we all get pissed off throughout the day.
I took an intro to psychology when I was in college, so
I'm
I
in the
know
last
bits and
course that
pieces.
my college offers for psychology, so I'm like all about that shit. Like, I was learning about manic depression before you came over.
That's actually pretty impressive, not gonna lie.
At 4 in the morning, I'm looking at manic depressive.
That's right, you woke up at 4. You're lucky I got here on time.
I fell asleep for an hour, actually. After I ate, I don't know what it is. After I ate, I just fell asleep.
See, my problem is, and this is probably a problem for a lot of people, I set my alarms. I have 2 alarms set when I have to get up early. I set one for 6. I set one for 6:30. I woke up at 7:30. That's what happened today.
At least you woke up, man.
Exactly.
I mean, we weren't planning on until, like, earlier, like 9 in the morning,
Yeah.
so... It's, you came earlier, which I appreciate, so it's like, it's cool, because I like getting my day kind of going, and then, because it sucks, when you get up so early, you're just, like, sitting around waiting, because no stores are really open, and it's like, shit, like,
Exactly.
I can't go back to bed.
Can't go back to bed. Can't go out because nothing's open. And it's too cold to really just sit in the car and go to a park.
Yeah. Wait till summertime rolls around.
Go to the beach at 5 o'clock in the morning. Fuck yes.
Watch the sunset, or sunrise, I should say.
I mean, depends on how early you wake up or go to sleep.
Are we having a competition?
I mean, I've been known to see the sunrise before I go to bed. It's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Challenging me here.
Challenge.
But like I said, we're going into just... You educated me more on the fact of puppets, and I appreciate that. And I really hope, it takes off even farther for you, that you keep going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You keep going, because, I mean, all of our passions are just rabbit holes. We're all seeing how far it can really go, and whether we choose to keep really going down it, or we choose to just stop, That's up to us. And if you really are passionate about something, then you should pursue it as far as you possibly can. And you've educated me more on puppets and just the aspect of what you're interested in, and I appreciate that. And you gave me something to really kind of think about more if I ever see puppets or something. If someone ever decides to do it right and play it on TV now,
Yeah.
like a more revelized version, like how good it was back in the day. Except Mr. Meaty, if you watch that show, then you're probably in a mental hospital
We're
somewhere.
not bringing it up. It's good.
Okay. But thank you for being on the podcast, Terry,
Yeah, of
and I really
course.
appreciate it. We'll have you on again soon.
Definitely.